Today, I think we're gonna try to harden everything up, or harden up the blade and anodize the handle. All right, so before we can anodize, there it is, kind of put together. I'm gonna get everything fleshed up, kind of sand this back edge, just to get rid of that line. It's not much, but there's definitely a line. I'm gonna sand all the way around, make it all nice and even. There's still a little bit of machine marks in there. All right, got her all cleaned up, polished up. So there's the back now. Top and the chamfer, the bottom. Got rid of all the, I don't know what you call them, the seam, I guess. Whatever you want to call it. I sanded this screw head down so it's kind of flush. All we have protruding is this here screw, and I can probably just find a chamfered screw to replace that with. And then this sticks out just a little bit too. I don't know, I probably could chamfer that a little deeper and let it suck in a little further. But yeah, I think it looks fine. I think it'll be fine, just fine. So that's it. Just a little, I gotta clean up in there a little bit. Got a little bit of chatter. But once it's anodized, or once I soak it in the acid for a couple of minutes, it dulls the whole thing and kind of leaves a nice even finish. And then you anodize it. So I'll polish it up just a little bit more. But I think based on, I've anodized a few things and they usually turn out pretty well. So yep, guess we'll take her apart, do a little bit more polishing and a little bit of rounding over the edges. You don't want to have any sharp edges when you anodize. The anodize, it's almost kind of like paint in the way that it won't stick to sharp corners. You'll be left with the sharp corner, and anodize just will not stick to it, and it'll scratch off or chip off really easily. Similar to paint. So yeah, that's the next step. All right, so I've got this little Harbor Freight ultrasonic dealio, and the first step in anodizing is to clean your parts, and then clean them again, and clean them again. Do it a couple times. So I'm gonna start them both this way, and I'll just let it run for whatever, 480 seconds. And this little guy heats up and it works really well. I just have straight simple green in there. Yep, I'll let these run, then I'll flip them, I'll let them run again, and then I'll rinse them with distilled water. And from there on out, I won't touch them with my dirty, grimy hands. I'll put some gloves on, I'll get them wired up, and I'll start getting the anodized stuff ready right now. Alright, so we got them nice and clean. What I'm going to do is get them wired up. I have some titanium wire that I use for this, but it's, I don't know, I've had good luck with aluminum. It's just you can only use it once, so I got titanium wire, but it's really thin. And I did run into some problems with the titanium last time because it's hard to get a good connection when the wire is so thin. But I think I'll jam one of the wires into one of these holes here and try to kind of thread it in. And then on this side, I don't know what I'm going to really do yet. I might take a piece of aluminum wire and try shoving it in with the titanium to kind of pinch it in this hole. I don't know. I'll figure something out and bring you back. And then once I get the wire on, I'll let it sit in here, do one more cycle, and then we'll go dip it in a mixture of lye and water. And that'll give it a nice uniform kind of finish. So, yep, we go grab that wire over there. Alright, So here's our titanium wire here. You need a nice firm connection. See, that wasn't firm enough right there. Because as it anodizes, as it builds up a layer, it'll form in between the aluminum and the titanium, and anodize is not conductive, so you'll lose your connection. That feels pretty good right there. You also don't really want your parts to be touching while they're in there, so try to give yourself some room. So I was thinking maybe I could jam some aluminum in there with the titanium just to fill the gap up, so that hole's a little bigger. Just need a bigger. Let's see here. Yeah, on those first knives I made, I thought it was good and started losing connection partway through, so I don't want that to happen again. I think I have some thicker, a little bit, well, maybe, oh yeah. Got this stuff here, it's a lot thicker though. So this is quite a bit thicker. Aluminium. Oh man, that might work good right there. Fine. Oh, look at that. See, if it's gonna fall apart, now's a good time for it to fall apart. And we're just gonna kind of get this rat's nest out of the way. Give me something to kind of hold on to, because we're gonna have to be dipping it and undipping it, putting it in the die and all the different things. So, man, what are we gonna... I'll try shoving that thinner aluminum. Because aluminum has a little bit of give to it. This is really soft. Just cheap hardware store aluminum. Feels pretty good. How are we looking? So yeah, I'll be able to just drop it in the tank. Let it kind of cook for a little bit. Usually you do want it to be kind of lifted off the ground. Yeah, that might work. So this is going to be the last time I touch it with my hands, hopefully. So I wonder if we can just kind of tip it, because it's not quite all the way underwater. Or actually, yeah, there we go. We'll just do that. That'll work right there. Let's see if we can prop it up. Perfect. Alright, we'll let that cook for a little bit. I'm going to change my gloves and get my lye and water solution ready. Alright, so here's our concoction. It's just water there. This is just household 100% lye. They say to do about 4 ounces per gallon and then let it sit in there for about 5 minutes. I don't like doing it that long, because the longer it sits in here, the more aluminum will get eaten away. And I'm not trying to eat away at all those tiny threads, because I've done that before. So just slowly pour some in there, and you're not going to want to breathe this crap. Hopefully that's enough. That's probably about an ounce, and this is about a quart or a liter. So I've got new gloves on, and I'm gonna stir this up and go grab the parts. Before I bring the parts over here, I have a spray bottle full of distilled water. Make sure you use distilled water for everything. Only use distilled water. The minerals in regular water can mess up the process. So anytime you move your part from one tank of whatever concoction to another, rinse it with distilled water really, really well. So I have a spray bottle and I just squirt the bejeebas out of it. Make sure I have all the simple grain off before I dip it in the lye, and then I'll make sure I have all the lye off before I dip it into the acid. Alright, so I sprayed them off really well. I'm just kind of stirring this up. Some 3D printer filament. What I had laying around. So the way you can tell that you have it all the way clean is by, I don't know if you can see that, not really I guess, but see how the water is not beading at all? It's just, the part is wet. The water is just sticking to it instead of beading off. That means you're ready to go. So we're gonna drop it in this lye solution for a few minutes, and you'll see you can see the aluminum change color. You just want to make sure it's not sitting just on a pile of lye. So I'm just gonna kind of do this for like 2 minutes, maybe even less. I'll bring you back and let you know how long we left it for. All right, that's probably good. I only left it in there for another, I don't know, 20 seconds after I turned the camera off. And now we just gotta hurry and rinse all the lye off of it before it eats away at the aluminum too much. Yeah, this stuff is nasty. It'll choke you if you inhale it. So I'm just gonna sit here and spray out all the holes really, really well. And I have a jar of 50-50 acid and water that I'll use to de-smut this, which I'm not sure which is actual de-smutting, the lye or just dipping it in the acid. But I'm just gonna skip that step and just go straight into my tank of acid, because it's, I mean, basically the same thing. So we'll go straight from here, straight into the anodizing tank, which is a Rubbermaid bin. Just want to make sure you have all of the lye off. Make sure the wire's all the way clean. Make sure all the holes are completely clean. All right, I think that's probably good. So here is my anodized tank, and I've got a sheet of lead, which I have my negative cathode on, and this will be our positive side. And I'm going to use the 720 rule, which is pretty standard. You just Google 720 anodizing rule. And that gives you kind of a calculation for the voltage and how long you want to do it for. So make sure you're all the way submerged, and you don't really want one part like way closer to the lead than the other part, especially something like this where it's two halves that are going to be together. You might see a variation in color, which doesn't matter too much to me. I don't really care, and I don't think this is going to matter because it's 2 inches further away. I don't think it's gonna make a difference, and I'm gonna anodize it. I'm gonna leave it in here pretty long. Last time I did it for about 90 minutes. So we've got it set up to do about 20 amps per square foot, and I kind of figured this is about 16 square inches maybe, kind of a rough guesstimate. So the recommendation for the 720 rule is 1.1 amps at a max of 20 volts. And you'll notice the longer it's in here, your voltage will automatically change. So I like to start it out a little bit lower, and the amps will build on its own. So right now I have it at about 0.74 amps, which is at 11.29 volts. I just have one of the little cheap power supplies from Amazon. And you just adjust the voltage side to wherever you need to get the 1.1 amps or whatever amps you're trying to get at. And you can kind of see the bubbles coming off of it. That means it's working. Every once in a while, I like to kind of knock the bubbles off. I don't know if it does anything, but it seems like it probably should do something. Otherwise, there's no contact, the acid to the aluminum, so, you know. It's, yeah, it worked for me last time, so it's kind of what we're gonna do this time. So, yeah, anyways, 1.1 amps for this size of part. Your size part is gonna be different. And just watch the voltage. In about 30 minutes, right now it's at 0.7 amps and about 12 volts. In about 30 minutes, I'm gonna check it and make sure that it's gotten up to 1.1 amps. And then I'll just let it sit there for the rest of the 90 minutes. I think I read somewhere that if you start out at a lower voltage and build up, it helps it build a thicker layer. I don't know if that's true, or it might even be backwards. It might be the opposite. I'm really not sure, but I'm pretty sure this is how I did it last time, and I got a super thick layer. It looked just like type 3 anodizing. The aluminum turned a dark brown just on its own. And it's a really hard anodize. I had to go back and machine the spring hole a little bit bigger, and you could feel the end mill hit the anodize and break through it. It built up a solid layer. And in here it's really cold in my garage, so that helps with building a thicker layer also. That's part of the process for type 3 anodizing, is to use chillers, and they refrigerate the water and get it really cold. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep an eye on it for the next hour and a half and keep jiggling the bubbles off and keep making sure that there's bubbles coming off, because if you notice bubbles stop coming off, then that means you've lost your connection, and you're gonna have to do something. What I did last time is I just twisted the part around because I lost connection on one of them after about an hour. I just jiggled the part around, and you can hear it crackle and little electric shocks going on. And I did that and got it to kind of connect again, but I had to keep doing it every few minutes because it would just lose connection again. But that's the way she goes when you're DIYing stuff and you don't have optimal setups, which is fine. I mean, that's how it should be if you're doing it in your shop. Nobody's gonna go out and buy a whole giant anodizing setup just so they can do a couple knives in their garage. But yep, that's it for now. I'll bring you back after 90 minutes. All right, so how far are we? Should have looked at the time. I think we're about an hour, a little more than an hour maybe in. And I had to run my kid over to a friend's house, and my amps dropped a little bit, and that kind of tells me that we might have lost connection. That, along with they're two different colors. So I think we lost connection on this one over here. What I'm gonna do is disconnect the cathode here just in case, and I'm gonna flip it around. Maybe I'm gonna flip it around so that this is closer to the lead, and hopefully that movement right there does enough to make it connect. And I also have just this piece of aluminum. You can hear it. So I don't think we have a good connection anymore. Come on. Sometimes you can see like little sparks in there. Oop. Yeah, our amps. Well, no, they're back up to 10. Which one? Oh, shit. That's why. I didn't notice the freaking wire was touching the lead. Ugh. Oh, man. Too funny. Turn that off and back on again, maybe? Man, it was glowing red. I didn't even notice. I was looking at the freaking parts. Not good. The power supply is not wanting to turn on for me. Oh, there we go. Just disconnected the cathode? Yeah, cathode, anode goes on the part that you are anodizing. So that's just a little fun way to remember it. And also don't make sure you don't let your wire touch your sheet of lead there. I still don't think we're getting any. Are we getting bubbles off of here? Yeah, we are. It's a little closer than I like right there. Oh, there we go. Just pull it out of the water. See if we can get it to stay. Come on. I can't tell. I can't really tell if those bubbles, I think they're coming off of that part. Yeah. Kind of, yeah, it looks like it is. So, yeah, you see the color difference? It looks more on the phone than it actually is, but, or on the camera than it actually is. But you can definitely tell one anodized, one must have stopped for a minute. Yeah, man. So, yeah, we'll just let that kind of, let it go for a little while, and I'm gonna kind of watch and see if the colors will, I don't know, become closer to the same. The amps are way up. They're at 1.6 now and 16 volts. And I'm gonna leave it there since we've already kind of, I don't know, what I read was start the voltage low and slowly build it up. So I'm gonna leave it at 1.5 amps, which is, it's saying it's 16 volts. They say what you're supposed to do is just set the amps, and wherever the volts go is where they go. And that's what they're supposed to be. So I could turn the amps up and get the volts up to 20, which is what the 720 rule said to do. And maybe I might do that for like the last 10-15 minutes, maybe, I don't know. We'll have to see. I like the way it's changing colors, because that's what they did on my last batch, and that ended up being a super thick, hard layer of anodize. So I'm kind of just trying to do that again, because those turned out really well. They turned out better than any of the things I've ever anodized. they have like an actual layer. It almost looks like paint. Compared to the other stuff that I've anodized, it looks more like it looks more like dyed metal. But those first knives, or the first knives I did, the anodize turned out super thick and dark and strong. So that's what I'm going for here again. One thing you want to watch for is make sure the water's not getting too warm. It's still nice and cold. It's cold in the shop, so I don't think I'll have a problem of it getting too warm. Otherwise, you can take this whole thing, put it in another Rubbermaid full of ice and cold water, and that'll help keep the temperature down. But I think we're doing good. It looks like everything's working good again. So yeah, I'm just gonna let her keep cooking. Give her a little jiggle, jiggle. I don't know if it makes a difference if like the face is facing the lead. I don't know. I don't think it does. I think it might make a tiny difference, but I think the main thing is the electrolytic solution, the acid and water. It surrounds the whole part. So here's my dye. This is Caswell from Caswell. It's black, and I've just got it on a little cheap, what do you call these, griddle maybe? I don't know. And what you do, you're supposed to get the temperature up. I think it's 140 for this particular dye. All the dyes have different temperature ranges that you're supposed to put them in. And then I also need to get one more of these just for boiling water, or almost boiling, get it up to the boiling temperature. And then we'll drop it in the dye for as long as you want. I'm gonna do probably 15 or so minutes, and then you seal it in the boiling water. I had this thing warmed up, but I turned it off so I could take my boy to his friend's house and not leave a griddle on while nobody's here. This garage is already flammable enough. So yep, I'll bring it back when we're ready. It might melt. That won't be good. Holy shit. Oh no. I tried to boil it in the jar, and the jar broke. That sucks. On my 3D printer. Alright, I sprayed off the parts. I have my dye at 140. That's what Caswell says to do. 140 degrees. Immersion freshly anodized part. Leave it in there until you're happy with the color. Mix it up a little. Alright, so I spray it off the parts really well with distilled water to get all the acid off, because if you go straight from the acid to this without rinsing them, you'll ruin your dye. You can reuse this dye. It's taking the dye really well. So we're just gonna leave that in there for a little while. And then after this, we have to take it and boil it, which is what I was trying to do, but my glass jar broke. So I'm just gonna run it inside, and I'll boil that while I'll bring you back once we have like a, finished product. Beauty. Looks pretty good. So the next step is boil it, and then I'll just throw some oil on it and she'll be done. Cool. Thanks for watching. So I just noticed something as I was rinsing all the acid out of here, pouring it back in. I just keep all my acid in this big bucket. These dollar bins have little security stickers in them. And how many people are stuffing these in their pockets? I mean, I think I'm lucky to live in Utah. We don't have a lot of theft going on like other states where Walmarts and Targets are having to shut down because they're getting robbed every single minute of every day. But I mean, that's just wild. It's got a little alarm sensor in there. Thought that was weird. All right, see you later.